Hello and welcome back to the Junior Developer Link. For anyone that hasn't listened before, this is a podcast aimed at entry level junior grads and kind of anyone either looking to land their first job or in their first job and looking to progress. And this week I have Spencer with me. Spencer, hello, how are you?
Hi, yeah, good thanks, Chris. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. You've got really interesting background. I'm really interested to kind of dive into kind of like your journey, and kind of where you're at now. And overall, the episode's going to be applying for jobs, sort of like 101, which going into in a second you can probably relate to fairly heavily for many reasons. But just tell me a little bit about yourself, kind of like your background in sort of tech and dev, and kind of what you're up to now.
Yeah, so I started my career kind of in recruitment, and then into tech recruitment. Was in that for a number of years, and then I started working with the School of Code boot camp. And my role there was helping like the boot campers into their first tech jobs. And I was working sort of with a load of aspiring junior developers, really inspiring people, all walks of life. And I was like, actually, like I want this for myself. So in September last year, I joined the bootcamp myself and literally finished it yesterday. Um, so I've gone from helping junior developers into their first career to becoming one of those junior developers.
I love that. And it sounds like the main trigger was the people that you spoke to. Had you always been interested in kind of like coding and kind of dabbled like a little bit, or was there just like, was it one person too many that you'd help get their dream job, and you were like, you know what, like it's my turn.
Yeah, I've always had, it's more of a passing interest, I suppose, in tech to start with. Um, there wasn't like we did loads of it at school or college or anything like that. And I went on to do a very useless ancient history degree, which just helps nobody. And
You
kind of,
literally be a history teacher. I think that's all you
yeah,
can possibly do with that.
yeah. And I decided that that definitely wasn't for me. Um, so yeah, I fell into recruitment as a lot of people do. Not everybody, but a fair few people do. Um, yeah, and I just kind of came across School of Code, loved what they were doing, supported that, got a job with them. I was like, okay, this is really interesting. Like talking to the coaches, learned a little bit from them, did some stuff over COVID because you're locked in the house, and I was like, oh, we'll give this a go. Yeah, and then finally decided actually, yeah, like this is a path for me, and I think there's so many people out there that don't see it as a path for them because it's not something they've ever done.
I was gonna say you must have seen like every single different career switch. Like, are there any other that like really stand out to you of kind of like people going from those to coding?
Yeah, I mean, we had so when I was working at School of Code, we had everything from like police officers, bakers, teachers, no candlestick makers. I think that's the one we didn't have, but sheep shearers, like you name it, like everyone's done it. We've done all the careers
I mean, my
across.
missus buys candles for about 20 quid a pop, so I think they're probably all right without
That's
coding.
why
So
they're not switching. Yeah, they're doing all right. They don't need it.
exactly, it's a separate career. Like it's a whole
Yeah,
different career path. If anyone's looking to get into candle making, I
yeah.
can't suggest anyone, but like do it on your own. But yeah, I guess how have you found like you finished yesterday? Is that right?
Yes, we had our demo day yesterday, so presented like our final projects like
Nice.
8 or 9 times yesterday. So yeah, it was a full on day, but
Yeah.
it was a great one.
So are you into the job search yet, or is that kind of to come over the next few weeks?
Yeah, kind of just starting. So like polishing up my CV now with like the final projects and all the details of that, getting the deployed link and all of that on there. But yeah, starting applying, but I've also got jury service like next week. So like I go from one thing pulled straight into that. So my application will be starting later, but
Yeah, fair. And I guess there's a lot of like it always is on LinkedIn, but there's a lot of doom and gloom, particularly around sort of like junior roles and things like that, lack of them, amount of people applying, all that kind of stuff. I'm sure people listening can relate to that. As someone that has helped a bunch of people get into junior jobs, has made the decision very recently to like do this career switch and has just finished, like how are you personally feeling about looking for a job like right now?
yeah, so I'm I'm positive about it. But I feel like that's just
Good.
yeah,
That would have taken a terrible
it's just
dive
really
in this.
yeah,
That was not
awful,
pre-rehearsed,
terrible.
but
Yeah,
this would have been a very short podcast otherwise.
there's no hope for anyone. Don't do it. Um, no, I think it's all bouncing back. You know, the thing I say about junior roles is they're the last ones to come back and they're the first ones to go when the market takes a turn, right? I don't think that's untrue, but there are roles out there, and don't be kind of put down. Like the thing about, especially if you're looking through LinkedIn and you see like 200 people applied, that doesn't mean 200 people have applied. It just means 200 people have clicked it and it's taken them to where they can apply. Doesn't necessarily mean it's that many people applied. So don't feel negative about that. Like there's always going to be something that you can be like, oh, it's December, nobody answers emails in December, or it's summer, people are on holiday, or there's always reasons not to apply, but like just apply because what's the worst that can happen, right? You don't hear back, or you get
For
told
sh-
no. But that's
yeah, for sure. But for someone in your position to be optimistic, like I love to hear that. And I think a lot of a lot of the advice out there almost seems to just be like a pure like volume thing, which again I think is why we're getting a lot of the crazy number of applicants, like all of that kind of stuff, because people are using more automated like applying tools and like I'll put an advert out and there'll be 50 people apply within like literally like an hour. So
yeah,
who are sat there literally just applying to stuff at absolute mass and
yeah,
like there's no it just doesn't work like at all. Like no, I don't know of a single person, if anyone knows of anyone that has just purely got a job by hitting apply to all for like every job that's out there. Like please send me a message. I'd love to meet you, but it's just not gonna work. You can't beat you can't land your first job at a company like by just spraying applications out there. And I think one of the things we're mainly going to go through is just a bit of a applying for jobs like 101, like get yourself in the right I guess setup for things, and then how to make the most of the opportunities that are out there. Because like you said, there might even not be as many right now, but there's still things out there, and kind of
still
making sure that you're in the best shape to do that. So
yeah.
we've got a bit of an order here. So CVs. First of all, like
CVs,
CV
yeah.
or resumes for anyone that's obviously in the US, like do we even still need a CV? Can we just use our LinkedIn? Like what should we be putting on there? Like talk me through your general thought and how you've put together or will be putting together yours.
Yeah, so like nothing I'm going to say is like a silver bullet, right? Like it's just I'm just going to say that up front. Like if people do all these things and don't land a job, like it depends entirely on who's reading it, who's looking at it, all that kind of thing. But like
Basically, don't blame
general
you.
things, yeah, don't come at me. I was on another podcast. Someone asked me a question about pineapple on pizza. People came for me. Like I'm putting a stop to that early on. Um,
What is your thought on pineapple on pizza,
oh,
by the way?
I'm on board. Sweet,
Yeah,
savory.
I
I'm
love
in
it.
for it. So
It's unbelievable. Hawaiian
like
can't beat
good.
it. Separate question.
Yeah, separate question. Go
We'll
for
have
that.
a.
If you're going to attack
Well,
me, attack the pineapple on
I'll tell
pizza
you what.
comment.
We'll have a follow up once you've landed your job. We'll share a pineapple pizza and not even ham pineapple, just pineapple. Be lovely.
Just pineapple.
Uh,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
but yeah,
Sorry,
talk to us
distracted from
about.
the point. Yeah, CV. So, like, there's kind of different things you want to do, right? So, like, depending on how you're trying to get your first job in tech, like, have you done a tech degree? Have you come from a boot camp? Are you completely self-taught? Like, you're gonna be putting different things. Like, yes, have a CV is like step one. People still want them. Um, yeah, you probably can get a job just from messaging people on LinkedIn, but like, why take a tool away from yourself? Um, so the thing for me is like, if you've done a uni course and you haven't done a lot of like team projects or pair projects as part of that, and it's a lot of like solo learning or going to lectures, learning a lot of theory, like you want to be talking about the times that you have worked in team-based projects and showing off like the projects that you've worked on. You want to be talking about like what you did, what impact it had, on the project you worked on. And I think that's going to be the same across like boot campers and self-taught as well. Like people care about what have you actually worked on that's not, and this isn't slagging off any of these apps by any means, but like, there's a lot of calculators or rock, paper, scissors or clocks or all those kind of apps. There's almost too many of them for that to be interesting. Like you want to talk about projects that either were built to solve a problem or built that you care about. So you want to do like a big focus on that. And did you work in pairs? Because like software development is a team sport now. It's not kind of that you've got a hoodie on in like a dark basement, like on your own, and building a company like from scratch doing that. Like there's big software teams now, so you need to be able to interact with others, pair program, work with other people, code reviews, all this kind of thing. So you want to talk about times where you've done that because that's relevant to industry. So boot camps, a lot of boot camps do group projects, right? Or you're on pairs week to week. So School of Code, the one I was on, we're in different pairs or threes each week, and we had a midterm project that was a team of 4 or 5, final projects teams of 5 or 6. So you've got a lot of moving parts there. You're working with people you don't know very well to build a product that you've kind of just decided you're going to build, um, which throws you off, and you've got to do a lot of planning and thinking around that. But you've got to work as a team to get that built, and you want to talk about that. But you also want to talk about like what your individual contributions to that project are and the impact that that had. So, like, if you worked on, say, it's got a lot of animation, like our front end had quite a lot of animation, and you did a big part of that, then you want to talk about, okay, so I did this animation, it was tied to the score, it made a plant grow. Like, without that, like our app wouldn't have looked as nice or been as like user friendly. The user experience wouldn't have been as good. Like the impact you've had has made a big well, impact. I'm saying impact a lot, but it will have a big impact on like the overall app. So you want to talk about things like that. You want to talk about the sort of technologies you've learned as well. It's sort of less relevant because at a junior level, like there's a lot of leeway in learning new technologies on the job. But you want to talk about what you learned, what you did, and give examples of like when you did these things. Like people mention like the star interview technique, which I quite like, um, and that's what I'm using on my CV at the moment. So we'll do a follow up like down the line if I've got a job, and like you can see if it actually works or not. But yeah, that's me on CVs really. Like just talk about what you've done, contributions you made, impact it had, and you also want to tell a story with your CV. Like you, especially if you're a career switcher, um, like why are you doing this? Like what's the reason behind it? Like you're not going to have you'll have skills from your previous career that like, are still important to mention and are going to be relevant to a career in tech, but people are going to care about the why. Like so, the thing that potentially career switchers have over university grads if they don't have that kind of computer science degree is the story of like why are you here? Like what are you doing? Why have you made this switch? How committed are you to it? How passionate are you? Like you want to get some of that passion, that storytelling into a CV as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's one of the big things of looking at CVs, looking at anyone's CV, but particularly when there's a lot of CVs to go through. The thing that can really differentiate people are those opening paragraphs of like why they do what they do, and like a little bit of personality in there as well. Like it's a real way rather than it literally just be a list of technologies that you've touched and a lot of we built this thing, like you said, it being like I did this bit, and the reason I'm even like in this career in the first place is because like this is why I'm passionate about doing this. And I'm speaking to someone else in a couple of weeks that is doing a lot of help with career switches, and they were talking about the difference between someone that's just graduated college that absolute stereotype, but maybe goes back and lives with their parents and there's no pressure on them to like move out and get a job and anything like that. A career switcher that, like you said, has, let's say they've been a baker for 10 years,
Yeah.
like they've got families, kids, like they've got a mortgage to pay for, like they're in a completely different stage of life as a career switcher, and they're you've gone all in on like this career, and without a why, it kind of just seems like a complete like, oh, maybe I'll try do this. Whereas if you can get the passion of that over in like a CV and someone can read that, they like people will relate to you. Like not everyone will care, but like the company that you probably end up working for will care about your why, and
Yeah,
it will just resonate with someone, and that will be the job that you end up getting.
yeah, absolutely. Right. And there's grad schemes that are opening up now for people that finish boot camps and self-taught. Like that need for a computer science degree is slowly going away. And it's not saying that it's not valuable, and to like anyone that's done a computer science degree that's listening, like you have still done an incredible thing. Like you've accomplished a lot, you'll learn a lot, you'll know a lot of stuff. And you can still get you've obviously done a computer science.
For sure. So the next thing you've put on is attending meetups. Like, is this something that are you quite heavily involved in your like local meetup scene, or are they ones that you do sort of online? Like, what's your kind of involvement in meetups?
So yeah, I do have a preference for in-person meetups. Like online ones are valuable as well. Um, but yeah, I like to go to them. I've been involved with Brum.js here in Birmingham for 3 or 4 years now, so I've been volunteering at some of those, helping out. Um, but yeah, going to that first one is nerve wracking in a new industry, and you don't know anyone or anything. Like, so I get it. Like it's off putting, but once you go to the first one, you'll find out they're such welcoming spaces. Like no one is there to make anyone feel bad about changing career or coming into tech. People will be interested in like why are you doing that. So yeah, I think they're great to go to. You can learn a lot. You'll build a bigger network as well of people in person, which I just think has a bigger impact. It doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Um, but yeah, to me, like I enjoy in person. I remember when I go to one, oh, there was someone there that I met last time. Yeah, you see the same faces, you build up that network, you get to know people a bit better, and you can ask them questions and you can talk about, oh, I'm trying to get into tech, like I'm here to do this. Like I've seen boot campers from the School of Code previously come along to these, talk to people, like build up that kind of rapport with them, and then they've ended up going and working there as well. Like, and some of that is going to be based off of, I feel like I kind of know this person a little bit. So if it's this person versus someone I've never met for a junior role, and I quite know and like this person already, you're just going to get a bit of a better chance. But you do want to go in with kind of some preloaded questions of like, okay, like who's going to this meetup? Because if you use Meetup rather than Eventbrite, nothing wrong with either of them, but Meetup tells you who's going or who's saying they're going.
Not sponsored by either.
Not
But
sponsored
like,
by, yeah, no sponsors here. Um, but Meetup will tell you who's going, so you can kind of be a bit targeted. Seems it's probably like my ex-recruiter coming out of me here.
yeah,
But you can look at who's going and go, okay, well, like I know this person works here. I was actually looking at a job there. Maybe like, but have a few questions or just have a few general questions that someone will talk to you at these events. It's kind of what happens. So if you've
yeah,
got a bit of an idea about, oh well, I want to talk about this or ask a question about this, and then remember their answer, and then you can connect with them on LinkedIn later and be like, oh, thanks for answering my question on this. It's just a really easy way to kind of build in that kind of relationship with people and that network with people. I just think they're really valuable.
yeah, for sure. Like we've been going from the reverse aspect. We've been going to a lot more events recently as a business, and like a lot of that is due to like a bit of a change in an attitude shift. And I think it's the same with meetups when you're looking for a job. You can turn up and basically I was turning up to these events and basically being like, cool, I'm going to meet someone. They're going to want to hire some developers. I'm going to go away with some jobs. I'll go back, fill the jobs. Like just life doesn't work like that.
Yeah, not the attitude to have going in. Like I'm not
And it,
advocating people to go in going, give me a job, please.
yeah,
But yeah, it's that.
exactly. But it's the same thing with that. Like if you turn up with like 10 copies of your CV and you're like, right, who's hiring? You're not gonna have a good time. But like if you do prep for them and you have a look at who's going, who's speaking, maybe, like, and do like a little bit of research and a little bit of prep. You'll know who's there to start with,
Yeah.
and you'll know who to look out to. You might even be able to, like, we drop every exhibitor at events that we go to now a little LinkedIn message, be like, hey, like, saw you going so and so. Like, if you get 5 minutes, we'd love to chat. And like, you'd be surprised about the amount of people that come back, and that's these are tech people, and we're a recruitment agency, and they say sure, like, we're at the same event, so like, we'll speak to you. Like, if you message the speaker at an event, be like, hey, so you're speaking, really excited to hear your talk, like, we'd love to grab 5 minutes with you. I'm sure, like, it makes it so much easier because you just go up and be like, hey, I'm so and so from LinkedIn, and they'll give you 5 minutes of their time anyway. And second of all, like you said, it's just not looking for something like instant. It's, you might meet someone that recommends you to someone that in 3 months' time recommends you to someone else. Like,
Yeah.
it's all about kind of building that network. Like, you might bump into someone and they're hiring, and great, but it's more like you said, it's building your network, and it might be your second or third job you end up getting from that meetup that you go to, or it might be that you apply to a job in a couple of weeks and you see that a mutual connection from a company from that event like actually works there. They put in a good word for you to the hiring manager, and they actually look at your CV. Like you were saying, Spencer, it's
Exactly.
just that tiny little bit of a foot in the door. And when, I know you said that there aren't 200 applications for every role, but there are 50
There
plus
are
at
a lot.
least that
There
people
are
have
a
got to
lot.
go through. And as an internal recruiter or a hiring manager, to go through 50 resumes, or even more than that look exactly the same, or to speak to a couple of people that have been recommended, they're going to go, well, let's speak to the people that have been recommended or have reached out to me, or whatever it is first. See if they're any good. If they're good, like, there's kind of someone that's vouched for them a little bit. So like, that's the path of least resistance, and also the least amount of time to like go through that. And it's
Yeah.
just like you said, the meetups are completely just a foot in the door.
Yeah, it's a long term strategy. It's not you can't go to a meetup and expect something to happen instantly. It's a You're building a network, and like you said, like it might be your second or third job, and if you keep going and interested in the meetups, like yeah, you'll just get to know more people. Yeah, someone will recommend you for something at some point. Like it's just bound to happen, but yeah, don't expect it to be an instant like something's going to happen. I'm going to get something out of this. You can't go in with expectations, but you can go in trying to build that network, and it gives you an excuse to go on LinkedIn and message that person and thank them. They're more likely to try and help you out just if you're in contact with them.
For sure. And then obviously, just kind of segueing from that, like, let's talk about sort of LinkedIn. Obviously, you've got your CV built separately, but obviously you need to have a LinkedIn profile as well. Like,
Yeah.
what has been your kind of advice to people at School of Code? Like, what's your, I know you're pretty present on LinkedIn, have been for quite a while, so you kind of built that up a little bit. Like, someone that doesn't even have like a LinkedIn profile, or is kind of just, like you said, been in an industry that hasn't required one and has just made one for this, like, how should they be using LinkedIn?
Yeah. I mean, I've got a one-word answer for how should people be using LinkedIn, and it's just consistently.
Yeah,
But in terms of like profile, you'll want to you can put your previous career or what you did before, education, all that kind of stuff, same as a CV for your profile, right? And go into a bit more detail. Again, similar thing to your CV. If you've done a degree, you want to talk a little bit about, okay, what did you do on that degree? Talk about your project, same sort of thing. Boot camp, talk about the boot camp. What has it done? Don't bring my LinkedIn up because I've probably not actually done the things that I'm saying to do. Um, but yeah, you want to use it in a similar way, and you don't have to be someone that loves social media and wants to post every single day or anything like that, but just interact. Like if you've got final projects, share that you did one, like just a post. You don't have to make it anything major, but you can comment a little bit on people's posts, like things, just kind of start getting your name out, connecting with people so that when they see stuff and they see you've commented on it, you'll just get that little bit of name recognition. And then when you're applying or asking for something, like, oh, I do kind of know who this person is. Like it is about consistency. You do have to kind of be on there, and that's not about just posting, but you do have to use it and comment on stuff or even applying for jobs, right? Like it will tell you sometimes who's hiring for that position, and you can message that person or connect with that person. So one of the things I always talk about is posting and engaging with others is great, but you can also use it to message hiring managers and recruiters directly, or someone you met at a meetup that I mentioned before. Like, you can just ping a message and be like, "Oh, I saw this job's up. Like, can you give me a little bit more detail? I saw it's this. I'm really interested in that kind of area. Is there any more information you can give me, or want to start applying, but I had a question first. Do you mind answering?" That kind of thing. And it just starts that conversation. And then if they're the person that's hiring and then you apply, you're more likely, again, just to have your name recognized. They're more likely to take a better look. Not that people don't take a good look at CVs that are come in, but if there are 50 odd and they recognize your name, you might get a slightly better chance.
You just
And there's,
get 2 minutes of being reviewed rather than 2 seconds, right? Like
yeah,
it's and that is the whole difference. I spoke to a CEO of a company yesterday, and he was talking about someone that he offered, and he only even looked at the guy's CV because someone called him and was like, "Hey, like my friend's just applied to your company. Like I trust him. He's a great guy." And the guy that called him was someone that he'd been to college with, and he was like, well, yeah, I trust his opinion. I'll have a look, and like went the whole way through the process and ended up offering him. But he was like, in reality, I don't think I would even have given his CV a second look, but I trusted that person and their opinion, and they vouched for them. So therefore, I interviewed them, and they got to where they were. And
and
it's
that's exactly what it's about. Like if you've got a 1% better chance of getting that job because of doing something I've said, then that's great. Like it doesn't mean it's going to work or you're going to get it, but it's all about increasing your odds of getting that first role, because the first role is the hardest one to get. Like once you've been in industry for like 6, 9 months, you're going to have people messaging you about jobs. That's the way it is. But at this stage of trying to get that first one, you're not going to get reached out to massively. So you have to do that kind of reaching out and make that kind of that big effort, and then it'll all pay back when you've been in industry for even a year. Like yeah, you're gonna mess like recruiters will be on you. People will be wanting to talk to you about jobs. Like there's a
you
lot
get
of
yeah, you're
junior
getting
roles out
offered
there that
more jobs than you want to get offered
exactly
as soon as you got 6 month plus experience. But
it happens.
I think this is a really good sort of framework, and it leads on from what I've seen a lot recently, which is particularly for juniors, like look locally, like look for businesses locally that you can actually go out and meet people. Again, you might like meet them at like a networking event, or like you've just got much more chance of engaging with like a local company. I'm not saying that you can't work remotely for some reason you particularly want to or need to work remotely, like that it just makes things a little bit harder, but it will work. But actually building a network in a location, you will end up meeting someone at a meetup and then going to apply for a job, and like the likelihood of there being someone in your network that works at that company is just tenfold. And all it takes is, hey, like I saw so and so is hiring, would you mind introducing me? And it takes
Yeah,
10 seconds for them to be like, yeah, sure, like here's their email, or like drop you both a message on LinkedIn, and you've got a conversation going. And it makes their life easier if someone can vouch for you.
yeah.
So
And it's
um
not always comfortable doing that kind of first outreach. You might feel like you're bothering people, or you don't really want to because you don't know them that well. It can feel uncomfortable, but the thing that I've always kind of told boot campers, and something I'm going to be doing myself, is like the worst thing that can happen is they say no or you don't get a reply. Like no one's gonna. I'll caveat this: no one should come back with something just like insulting because you've shown an interest in either working at their company or asking for help. Like people don't kind of go, absolutely not. I'm never going to help you. Get away from me. It's just not likely to happen. So the worst that's going to happen is like no, or they don't reply,
Yeah,
and you've
particularly
lost it.
if you're taking the steps to actually look at the companies that you're applying for, like your CV and your LinkedIn are clear, and you're applying for jobs that are right for you. Like people are gonna love the fact that you're reaching out because it makes their lives easier, and ultimately they want to hire someone, and ultimately a lot of your job as a junior is like how much is this person going to go above and beyond to do their job because they have no experience of it. So if you can come with the right experience and the right qualifications and you're communicative and friendly and all of that kind of stuff, like it just makes it a no-brainer to hire you. Like
Yeah,
he said no one should be rude to you, but and the only reason you might even get a slightly negative response is if you're applying to like staff engineer level roles and
yeah,
you've got someone who's
yeah,
super senior coming back to me being like, no, like why are you bothering me? But like if it's something that you're qualified for and it's a junior role, an entry level role, and it's something that you're interested in, it doesn't even matter. Like the company might not even be hiring. Like if you can see that a company locally that has hired juniors before, like message the engineering manager, say like, hey, like, I've seen you've hired juniors in the past. Like, I'm also locally based in, say, Birmingham. If anything ever comes up, like, would love to chat. Like, people love that kind of stuff.
yeah.
So,
People want to hire people that want to work there, right? Like, and reaching out and saying I was really interested in this job advert about this specific bit made me interested in working there and applying. Just had a quick question. Like, you're showing an interest in working specifically for them, as long as you don't message and go, "Hey, you've got a job, I want it, help." Like,
yeah,
show an interest in it, ask a question about the job spec, like be targeted. It's all gonna help again, even if it's just that 1% that gives you that
yeah.
2 minutes rather than 30 seconds on your CV.
And it's not complicated, like you said. It's looking at either like the job poster or like the development manager or the recruiter that works at that company, and literally you might even just have a thing of you hit apply and then you find the most relevant person, send them a connection request to be like, hey, like just applied to this job, super interested in it because of, and then just something either about the company or like the job or something like that, and you're done. And
Yeah,
that's basically all that you need to do as like a follow up. And if they connect with you, maybe send another one, be like, hey, like appreciate the connection. Like, let me know if there's any further details that I can share that might help my application. Would love to hear from you. And if you don't hear anything, you don't hear anything. Like you wouldn't have done if you just applied and waited to hear back either. But you might get someone come back and go like, "Oh yeah, like it looks great. Like, let's set up a call," and
yeah,
then
yeah. You got that
everybody
chance.
wins.
Exactly. Yeah,
Sure. So let's go on to number four. So obviously, recruiters. You used to be a recruiter. I still am a recruiter. So let's be nice. But
I have
what?
very positive and very negative things I could say. We'll see. We'll see what comes out my mouth. Um, no, so this for me is about this is a positive thing. It's about finding good recruiters that you can trust. Like, and typically recruiters don't work loads of junior roles as a general rule, um, but they do want to help their clients, and their clients might have a junior role, but they might not want to go for it for some reason to the recruiters. But like Chris, you can speak to this as well. Like if they were talking about they've got a junior role as well, they don't really want to go to like a recruiter for it because they've got grad schemes or whatever, but you can recommend people through junior developer link or whatever, recommend me. Um, yeah, just a plug. Like yeah,
is this the caveat of you coming
yeah.
on? Like you
This is why I'm here.
you
Yeah, I'm accosting you now. But no, like you want to help them, right? Like they go, oh, we're thinking about looking at a junior role. You're like, okay, great. Well, like there's this many people that are part of this group or part of my network. Like I can recommend some people. You do that to help, and
100%. Like a lot of the work that you do as a recruiter is free. Like it is just helping people out, giving people advice, working jobs that you never get feedback on.
the vast majority. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know it is,
but
but like
like
yeah,
you said, if someone's looking for an entry level role, they can typically, if they have the internal recruitment team to do so, they can fill them on their own, and they won't typically pay a recruiter to do it, particularly not like a niche recruiter. We that being said, we probably place a junior every couple of months for teams that we have that don't have HR departments. So the recruiters definitely do work on some junior roles. It's just a lot rarer because they're paying for similar to level of salary. They're paying for people that have experience, and once it gets more competitive to actually get hold of people. So the more experience you get, the more you will need to deal with recruiters. I do apologize about that. Um,
But
but
that's it's important to find a good one, right? That's you find
it,
them early. That's great because you like
exactly. But if one of my key clients was like, "Hey, do you know any juniors? We're not paying you a fee." Like, I'm gonna say yes because I wanna keep them happy, and even if I don't get paid for it, like I still get the recognition of having found that person.
yeah,
And the thing that happens to me that works the majority of time for juniors is if I get a message from junior being like, "Hey, I saw you're connected to so and so at this company. I'm really interested in a junior role that they're hiring. Would you mind introducing me?" I'll do that all day, any day for like anyone. When people message me just being like, "Hey, got any jobs?" Like, I don't have I don't and never have had a long list of junior like requirements.
yeah.
Like there might be an open job posting, and if someone messages me again about a junior job posting that we have, like that's going to make them stand out massively. If it's a good message, hey, like I'm interested in this position that you're posting. Here's why. Like I'm really interested in the industry that they work in. That makes our job easier. We'll look at your application first, and you'll probably get that job because that's half of the battle. But if we're not posting anything junior, we probably don't have anything junior. So I'm
I
sure
can't
there
wait
are
for your inbox to be flooded with people going, "Hey Chris, I saw you're connected to this person. Can you introduce me?" That's
I'm just
after
gonna.
this
I'm
comes
just.
out, the next day
Uh,
it's just gonna be you responding to emails.
I'm just gonna at you in every single one of them. Um, but it's one of those things like that makes my life easier if you're highlighting a posting that you think you'd be good for. Like there probably are recruitment agencies out there that just do a lot of junior hiring. I don't know of any specifically within dev. But like I'm sure there are ones that are out there. But I think in general it's getting them on site and there probably are an into companies that you're interested in. So say for example, let's take Birmingham again as an example because this is all about Spencer's job search. Um,
It is all about it. It always
yeah,
is.
you can look for like dev recruiters that are based in or have jobs live in that location and look at them at any level and basically just say like, hey, like I'd be interested to know if any companies based it. I saw you're working on jobs in Birmingham. Like, would be interested to know if any of them have like open requirements for juniors. If you don't hear anything back, it is what it is. They don't, but connect with them. They'll probably connect with you. And then as you start to network around on LinkedIn, you'll find that that recruiter will be connected to some of the hiring managers. And you can be like, hey, like, really sorry to bother you. Like, would you mind, like, they're recruiting for a junior dev. Would you mind introducing me? I'd love to speak to them. That might be that recruiter's way into that company. Like, they might introduce you for free, they love you, and then they end up signing them up as a client for like senior and lead level roles. So good recruiters that know what they're doing will be happy to help you. I'm not one of them, but but no,
Hey, you,
no.
you've got to find the right ones. So
Yeah, you got to find the
Chris,
right one.
there's
They're
loads out
very,
there that will help.
very hard to find. But no, I think that's right. It is literally just finding the right ones, and again, not having that spray and pray approach of just messaging every recruiter being like, "Hey, got any jobs?" Because you're not going to get any responses, and like they're not gonna help you. But if you're doing it in a strategic way, and again, more of a networking way of, hey, like keep me in mind if anything comes up, like this is what I'm looking for, this is what I've worked on. Again, have a really clear CV, really clear LinkedIn of I'm a front end developer, back end developer, junior. This is what I'm looking for, like all of that on there. So it's really clear for recruiters, particularly if they're not technical at all. Like it's much easier for them to like figure out if you put what you're looking to like work on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Perfect. Next one you've got is GitHub. So should
yeah.
everyone at like an entry junior level have a GitHub set up before even applying?
Such a difficult question. Um,
Why did you write it down then?
yeah, I know, but I would say yes. Like if you've got one, like if you're working and you want to be a junior developer, you're going to have a GitHub, right? But like there's even a profile section there, and it's more around like tailoring it a little bit. Like you don't want to kind of show, you do want to show projects from when you first started learning to projects now because there'll be a difference. You don't necessarily want to. just have the same projects that everyone that follows Free Code Camp has.
Yeah.
Like, so it's about using it to work on some personal projects or something that you're passionate about, like that you can talk about. You can add it to your CV, and then when people ask you questions about it, like someone built like a Lord of the Rings API, and someone asked some questions about it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, it's this," and they like really care about it. Like that comes across a lot better than going, "Yeah, so I did, you know, JavaScript for this rock paper scissors app, and I used it to make them move around. And when it bumped in, and if it was rock and the other one was paper, it lost." Like, you want to inject that kind of energy into it. So if you've got something that you can talk about passionately, it makes it so much easier for the other person to get invested in what you're talking about. Um, and write readmes for your projects. So there's lots of and something that one of my mentors was talking to me about was like developers hate writing like documentation and readmes. So, but they are really important because if someone goes onto your GitHub and looks at a project and wants to download it and use it, but they don't know how to, that's unhelpful. So you can write, doesn't have to be like fancy, you just want to be like, oh, this is how you like install it, this is what you need to install, you would run it by doing this, and this is the things I was looking at doing at next. Like, just give people an idea of what the project's about so that they, again, can just care about it. And then there's the things like, there's a profile page, you can talk about that, you can put your location, you can add in little bits of like your about me from your CV or something on there as well, like maybe slightly less important, but kind of craft it so you can show like your progression as you've got better at coding and you've done more coding, and have projects that if someone asks you about, you can talk about and show you care about. That's kind of what this is for.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's two things that come from that. I think one is like talking about the fact that, or like something that you care about and you're passionate about. And this is kind of like two separate points. Like when you're a career switcher, I spoke to someone about this a while ago. Like you have a wealth of industry knowledge in something else. So one, apply to companies in that industry because you have something over every other developer of an entry level that's coming from other industry. You understand how that industry and how their products and all of that kind of thing work. So
Yeah.
applied to, I don't know how that applies to you, Spencer, but recruitment companies like
Yeah.
but say for example you've worked in like an accounting firm for like 10 years and there's a company that does software for accounting companies like and why would they not hire you because you understand the product, you understand how that would be used. And same thing, if there's an idea for a project that you can think about that you can use your knowledge of that industry around, 100% you should do it around that as well, and it will be so much easier for you to convey your enthusiasm behind it because you'll really understand like the function behind it. And I have no idea what my second point was, so we'll just stick with one on there.
It's a good point though, and you're right. Like, and also working in an industry and then going into development, like you might have thought of something that needs fixing in that industry or with a specific something you used previously. Again, accounting. If you're using accounting software in your accounting firm, and you're like, "There's this thing that I'd really like to change. It's really annoying." You've got a different view on it than the developers that are probably building it, and like that view is valuable. So it's something else to talk about, like when you're talking to these companies in this industry that you previously worked in. It's a
For
really
sure.
convoluted way of saying that.
Such a huge differentiator as well. Like, and particularly again, combined with the meetups and the messages and all that kind of stuff. If you can be like, I used to be an accountant, like I would love to, I'm now a developer, but I would love to be on the development team because I've worked on that software and I know X, Y, and Z, how it's used and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's going to take your ramp up period will be so much lower, so much quicker than everyone else, because you understand what it's used for. The technical ramp up period is still going to be there, but like
Yeah,
you'll be able to add value almost straight away because you've used and
immediately.
understand what the
Yeah,
software's what it's used for. And I remember my second point. It was about the README, like because it was about it was a bit of tech that I was trying to use as like a plugin that I found yesterday, and I couldn't work out how to. It was a freemium version of something, and I couldn't work out how to use it within about 15 seconds. So I just gave up, and I'm never going to try and use it again.
Yeah.
Like people are literally. It might just be me, but I'm pretty sure everyone else is also that frivolous. Of
Yeah,
someone
I'm the
might
same.
just be on your GitHub and just be like, "Oh, this looks interesting," and they spend 10 seconds trying to work out how to look at your project, can't. Like they're not going to call you and be like, hey, like I'm really interested in looking at your project that you put on your GitHub. Like that, it's just not going to happen. They'll try, they can't, like they move on, and that's
You've got
it.
to make
So
it easy for people to look at your stuff and then interact with you. Whereas you can't, yeah, like you say, if there's nothing there, you're not going to overcome that barrier of, oh, there's nothing there, I best call them. Like, you need to make it easy for people to interact with you and see what you're doing and how good you are.
for sure. So I'm going to switch your points 7 and 6 round because I think 6 would be a nice one to
I
finish on.
think,
But
yeah.
so let's go with point 7 out of 7, but with one left afterwards. Tech tests.
Yeah.
I guess you've probably seen or kind of spoken to more people that have gone through junior related tech tests than sort of most. Like what should people kind of be prepared for, and what can they kind of expect from tech tests?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to be varied depending on whether the company's even hired juniors before. You might get a tech test that's like way above what you even think you can do. Um, so it's not always about finishing the solution with tech tests. So I know that sounds counterintuitive. Um, yes, you're given a tech test to look at your technical and coding abilities, um, but the main thing is like how you solve the problem. So you don't have to have coded the full solution, but if you can just write out comments of like, oh, okay, so I've broken the problem down into smaller parts. This is how I would solve it, and you've started and got through. Like you don't have to finish it. So I've got a story that I won't name names of anything or anyone, but if they're listening, they'll know it's them. So there was someone that did a tech test for a very large company and got 0% and got hired.
Really?
Um, so it's not always about having the 100% perfect solution. And like, fun side note, like someone did get 100%, didn't get the job. Don't know the full reason behind the why of that one, but the person who got zero, like, they broke the problem down, and then when like their time ended, they took it away, went on their own GitHub, and were like, "Oh, okay, like I know that this I did this wrong," and they made another solution to it and then sent that off. Like it's kind of the effort behind it. So if you're doing a take home tech test, still break the problem down, go through it, talk about how you would solve it and start the coding. Like the planning's the most important thing, and like articulating or talking about like how you're going to solve it is really, really key over solving the whole thing. If you've got like a live tech test and they're like talking in front of you or like over the screen like this, just whatever's not whatever, almost everything that's in your head that you're thinking related to the tech test, you should say. Like, you want to be able to talk about, oh, okay, so this is the problem. Okay, so it's going to need like this and this and this, and like breaking it down into these three parts and break that one part down a bit more. Okay, so this is how I'd go about solving this. I'd need to do, something with like I need a function to do this and to change this, or I'd need to set this state and that would need to be changed by this. Like break it down into like just talking out loud to the other person so they can kind of understand your thought process. I guarantee, like if you're in a tech test, like a live one, and you're sat there silently writing lines of code without any explanation of what you're doing or why, like that's not going to be a good tech test. Like they're going to want you to explain it. And most people will probably sit you down and go, okay, like at the beginning of this, like whatever you're thinking, just like kind of say it, like talk me through how you're thinking about the solution. Make sure you do that because that's what working in a software team is. You might be paired with someone and you'll need to be able to talk to them about how you're going about solving the problem. You can't just solve it and go, ta-da, that's done. Like You need to be able to explain it. So just make sure that you do that.
Just-
Don't do that.
but
Yeah.
not every this position is going to be working with someone, typically like a senior engineer, and that senior engineer is probably going to be on your interview, like during some part of it, particularly like the tech test. Like they're likely to be there, and a lot of it is going to be, could I work with this person like all day, every day, and teach them how to do the job that they really want to do? And like you said, it's not about necessarily getting like 100% on the actual solution. It might be just showing how you think about things, and you need to, there will be people that you're not right for because you don't think in the way that they think, and that might be companies, it might be a specific person that you'd be working for. But if you can demonstrate that you think about things in like a logical way, and you can basically come together with that person and show that you would have got there, like that's more important than literally just sitting there and finishing it and not saying anything, because they'll just be thinking, well, how did they get there? And they'll have to go through all of that kind of stuff. And it's just much more important to show that you can be collaborative and work in that kind of environment.
Yeah. I think of it like a maths test. Like it's show you're working. You get a mark for showing you're working, even if the answer's wrong. Like so just show you're working out in the tech test as well. Talk about it, put it in comments, have it somewhere so some people can just follow your thought process. It's
For
about the
sure.
problem solving rather than the code.
And the same thing for the take home ones as well, right? Like README documents for those are the most important. And
Yeah, comments.
if there's a time limit on it, it's what would you have done next, and why you put all of that in there, and all of that kind of stuff. And if there's no time limit on it and you really want the job, do all of the added extras. Like I can't tell you how many times people of junior level have either got or not got jobs because they've either stopped at the bare minimum, or like ticked every single box and spent another couple of hours like doing the
Mm,
things that they didn't have to do, because it just shows that you're willing to go above and beyond, which is generally in a junior job a lot of what you're going to have to do to actually get up to speed and learn. It just shows your willingness to do that, whereas if you just stop at the point of like, oh yeah, that's enough, like, and there's other people that do more, like you'll be discounted like straight away, even if what you've done up to that point is great. And then the only other caveat I would have is, particularly if you're working with a recruiter, or like even an internal recruiter, or whoever gives you the test, just ask for more before you start, in terms of what have people liked in the past, you have, how long should I be spending on it, are
yeah,
there
yeah, yeah.
particular are there particular things that I could do, is there anything extra I could do, like, and it might be that one thing, like I know even companies sometimes, you actually going back and asking for clarity on something is part of the interview process. Like not many companies do that, but some of them will leave an email on the test, be like, if you've got any questions, and there'll be something like unclear, and they like the fact that people come and clarify and like all of that kind of stuff, because it, again, it's a little bit of a window into what it would be like to work with you.
Yeah.
So never be afraid to ask for like clarification on points, or like additional help, or like what would be considered bonus points on this test, because that could be the difference between you landing the job, and they'll love to give you that information.
Yeah. And people like juniors that ask questions versus juniors that don't ask questions. Like a big thing when I was like working at School of Code was, we want people that are going to ask questions. We don't want to, it's really difficult to make someone that never asks for help ask for help. It's easier to get someone that always asks for help to sometimes ask for help when it's needed. Like they'd rather you ask more questions and ask for help more, because you'll learn faster, be up to speed quicker, adding value faster than the person that sits there for half an hour struggling to figure this out, has tried like one thing but doesn't ask a question or clarification. Like be the person that asks the question.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that leads on perfectly to point number 7 or slash 6 out of
Yeah,
7, that you've kind of put there. And
yeah.
yeah, I'll let you kind of close out with that.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's the last point is it's at the junior level especially, it's attitude over skills. Like the coding is important. Like no one's denying that. You won't walk in if you can't code anything, but it's much more about like how much you care about development the passion you have for it. Like skills can be taught in code. Like if you've got a little bit of coding knowledge and you go in, like you might have learned some JavaScript and you go and work for a company that uses C sharp. Like you're going to have a learning curve there. But the willingness to learn, the willingness to ask for help, and the passion you have for it is going to get you there so much faster than going, hey, I've got this perfect solution. There's no comments. You can't, I haven't told you how to download it, but I've got 100% on this coding test. Like, it's less important. It's not important, but your attitude at a junior level is more important than some of the skills you've got. Like, some of the people that have gone on to get jobs very quickly after the School of Code aren't always the people that have got the strongest coding skills. I'm not saying they're bad coders by any means, but they've got a real passion and a real drive for it, and that comes across in interviews, in conversations. Like people want to know you care about this, and you're making this change for a reason. Like, if they can tell you're passionate about it and you care about it, and you're going to work hard at it, then they're more likely to hire you over someone that is technically perfect.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like you said, there's a minimum bar, right? Like of entry level in terms of like coding skills, but like apart from that, it is purely attitude. They say that actually hiring a junior will cost companies money and it costs seniors time to start with because instead of being a person up, they're actually like half a person down by like bringing you on and you working with them. So the better your attitude is and the keener that you are, like and the more you can kind of show that, the quicker that ramp up period will be, which is what they want. And they ultimately want to, there's the benefit after benefit after benefit of like hiring juniors, but that short term like ramp up period is still going to be why people are on the fence about hiring you. If you can show that you're going to go above and beyond and have the attitude to be like, don't worry, I got this. I'll ask if there's any questions, but then actually go and ask and clarify things and like just be really, really keen and enthusiastic and like that is going to make all of the difference when hiring for
Absolutely.
a
Yeah.
junior.
Care about it, and that will shine through,
For
and
sure.
that's what
Well,
gets people's attention.
yeah, well, I cannot wait for our follow-up episode, which will be pineapple pizza, and why not to use the star technique on your resume. But
There we go.
um,
Yeah. I'm still
obviously,
unemployed will be the title.
yeah, it'd be a GoFundMe rather than a meetup to
Yeah.
find you a new job. But oh, mate, thank you so much for jumping on. Like, really enjoyed chatting to you, and obviously,
Thanks for having me.
best of luck with the search and everything. I will do a follow up with you in kind of 3 6 months. I'll keep an eye on everything and keep in touch. And if anyone's got any questions or anything, obviously reach out to Spencer and not me.
Yeah.
Um,
Not me. I'll redirect to Chris. He'll redirect to me. We'll go in circles.
Exactly. But no, thank you, mate. Really appreciate that. And for anyone listening, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you've got future topics, guests that you'd like to hear from, anything like that, please do shoot me a DM or email Chris at thedeveloperlink.io. Thanks, Spencer. Speak to you soon.
Cheers. Bye.